Hi friends, I just got done with a shoot, if you couldn't tell by me half wearing my Cat Noir costume, but I'm starving, so I'm gonna be eating some burgers off screen. Don't mind that. Cats gotta eat too, you know. For today's video, I wanted to talk about fandom spaces and is cringe culture dead? Basically, how much fandom spaces have changed over the years. This has been a topic that's been on my mind for a while, so I wanted to make a video about it, and I've been seeing videos about it on the TikTokies. Basically, just asking the question, why have fandom spaces gotten so mean? Why does it feel like people in fandom spaces have this sort of superiority complex now? If you've felt this shift too, or you're just curious about the change of fandom culture over the years, stick around. I've been in fandom spaces for a pretty long time. Not crazy long, but I've been in fandom spaces / I've been cosplaying since 2012, beginning of 2012. So in that time frame, I've seen many fandom empires rise and fall, and I was a part of quite a number of them. I was there and in the weeds of Homestuck, Hetalia, Super Hulock, Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons, Miraculous Ladybug, still in those weeds. So many things. I was on DeviantArt and I was on Tumblr, and even though in my DeviantArt days and Tumblr days I didn't cosplay as much, I was more in the roleplay writing community. The Hobbit was definitely in the weeds of that one. Yeah, I've seen a lot come and go and change over the years. Back then, really in the 2010s, Cringe walked hand in hand with these fandom spaces. We were cringe, but we were free, and it was a lot of fun. No one was afraid of being themselves. And just like you couldn't be in fandom spaces without being a little cringe. Like fandom culture is inherently cringe. You're role playing, you're dressing up in costumes, you're screaming theme songs at the top of your lungs, you know? Like maybe it's a little cringe, but it's fun. And just etc. I can keep going. Role playing, cosplaying, making music videos and posting it online, writing fan fiction, you know? All in all, though, it was just a celebration of creativity and passion. And just fandom has always been about embracing your weird, your creativity, and not hiding it. But somewhere along the way, I guess we sort of lost our way, if that makes any sense. Especially in the last few years, there's been a rise of anti-cringe culture, and I know I'm not the only one who's noticed it. And I definitely think it's being pushed a lot thanks to social media algorithms these days, especially one app in particular. It's really freaking good, and people's opinions and thoughts are able to be pushed out and cycled to like-minded individuals and even not like-minded individuals. It's just out there everywhere. You can't hide it. And unfortunately, that mindset has started to leak into fandom cultures and onto other websites, not just that one in particular social media platform. And I don't want to outright blame the mainstreamification of anime and nerd culture, the mainstreaming of anime, cosplay, gaming, comics, etc., but I do think that has played a part. You know, like pre-2020, a lot of these nerd culture things were beloved and explored by those of us that were different than the norm that society dictated. Many of us who felt othered in middle school, elementary school, high school, gravitated towards these artistic interests and communities, And so in 2020, in lockdown, a lot of people didn't have anything to do, so they started to explore these inherently online spaces of anime and cosplay and fan fiction, comics, gaming. And because people were getting sucked into the TikTok app, and a lot cosplay was super huge back in the day on that app, and still kind of is. I started using the app when it was still Musically, and it was huge with cosplayers. So I'm kind of not surprised when normal people started to use the app. Those who weren't in these fandom spaces that started to use the app saw these things, and they were like, they got interested in it, and they'd look it up and they'd get into it. And I'm not a gatekeeper. I always disliked the mindset of, oh, you weren't there right when it started, so you're not a real fan, or you weren't there during the Tumblr days, so you're not a real nerd fandom person. I think that's silly, because we all get into something at one point or another. We all start somewhere. So I'm very happy that it's a lot more known and mainstream. However, because certain people got into these fandom spaces with their certain mindsets, they started to bring these mainstream values into fandom spaces. Like popularity, aesthetics, influencer culture, if you will. And this is when we felt fandom spaces begin to shift. They started to look less like communities of nerdy people who were extremely passionate, and more like high school cafeterias. Let's be real, fandom spaces have always been a little weird. That was the point. And people today, many people, many young people, wouldn't survive the cringy fandom spaces of back in the day. Jelsa, shipping Jack Frost and Elsa. I loved that ship back in the day. Totally roleplayed it. Hiccup and Jack Frost, right? Hiccup is popping again because of the new live action remake in the park just opening. Homestuck versus Hetalia. Remember that feud that was happening? And all the people shipping ridiculous and not candom ships. Just those were the days. Glomping, remember Glomping? Yeah. And even though those days were chaotic, they were passionate. They were full of life. People were extremely unapologetic in being themselves and expressing themselves. Fandom spaces were a means of escape from the real world and society. It was just a place to dive into something we loved, free of judgment, and just to dive into another realm. But now there's almost this conservative mindset creeping into the community. People get outraged if you ship characters that aren't meant to be in a relationship. Fandom spaces used to be the wild, wild west.
Stop policing fandom. This is the wild, wild west. We don't got cops, okay? There are unspoken rules of fandom that we all know. However, because fan culture is becoming more of the norm, we're getting a lot of people in fandom spaces who would have never naturally popped into fandom spaces. So now they're trying to curate it to their sensibilities, and that's just not what fandom is. This is the Wild West. Get on your horse and ride, cowboy. And please, if you don't like something in fandom, just don't interact with it. Nobody is forcing it down your throat.
And that unpredictability is partially what made it so freeing and intriguing in the first place. Now there's this increasing feeling to behave in these communities and just act like you're building a brand, even if you're not necessarily. It's kind of pushed towards people. Or people feel pressure to curate their tastes so it's more palatable to others, or it's just more marketable online, or to just, make them look cool online. And honestly, it's kind of exhausting. Another thing is that I think a lot of people forget that many fandom spaces are full of teenagers and kids. These are people still figuring out who they are, what they like, what they don't like, their interests, learning how to express themselves. Neuro, spicy or not, many of us went through these stages of trying to figure out who we are, figure out how we wanted to dress, how we wanted to present ourselves, and just trying to fit in anywhere and finding joy in things that fit us and fulfilled us. Finding joy in things that made us feel seen. So when I see videos online, especially one particular app, I get really sad when I see people dogging on these people, typically teenagers, acting cringe or being cringe in cosplay or something, because those kids are creating, they're expressing themselves. It takes a lot of guts to film yourself and post a video of yourself online to be seen by hundreds if not thousands of people. And they're dreaming, they're trying to escape from real life. And when people leave their offhanded or mean comments, it can really hurt someone, especially when they're going through those developmental years. And honestly, it can just hurt anyone of any age. I feel like a lot of people, especially nowadays, don't seem to realize the impact words have. I've had people say things to me, typically in person. I've been able to develop a thick skin online. You kind of have to be when you post constantly over the years, but I've had people say things to me that have stuck with me, and I remember them to this day. And I have hesitation in some things I do because I'm like, am I really boring? Like, am I really not an interesting person, or etc., etc.? But you can't let those things stop you. That's my advice to the youngins who get mean comments online for their cosplays. Don't let them stop you from doing what you love and pursuing what you love. Just be you. And oftentimes those people are just projecting or they're jealous. All in all, just I think it's important to remember, be kind, because we've all been that kid. Also, let's just be real. A lot of people in these fandom spaces now are new. They're all newbies. They joined during lockdown. They didn't live through the trenches of DeviantArt and Tumblr. They weren't all there for the debates and conversations and learning experiences we already had in years past on those other platforms.
And the thing is, they're coming into these spaces, these quote weird kid spaces, and they're confused when there's weird kids doing weird kid shit. Like, yeah, we dress up. What's the problem? Yeah, we're going to sing the songs. Get over it. And then they have these discussions that we've already had on Tumblr. Like, they don't have fandom etiquette, if that's the word to say it. So, like, certain fandoms obviously get new shows, new things, so it brings a new wave of people. COVID and like lockdown brought in a lot of new people to new anime. But the thing is, if they weren't on Tumblr or they didn't get into Tumblr, some of the discourse that we've had that's been here for years, we've already had these discussions, these thought pieces. We've already came to a semi-unanimous feeling about it, and we've moved on. They're new. So they're coming in with the same discourse, and we're like, no, we're not rehashing it. And then they're like, well, I don't understand why all of you guys feel like this. Because we've already had this conversation. You just wasn't in the room.
So in a way, history is just repeating itself, as it tends to do, but it just feels more intense because of how the tiki-taki algorithm is, how powerful it is, and how powerful other modern day social media platforms are compared to the social media platforms of back in the day. Things are just more connected now, so it just feels more amplified. But these conversations have always existed. And I do think the rise of a more conservative culture now is playing into the role of anti-cringe. I mean, I've been seeing videos and even in real life just walking around in stores and how the clothing is more conservative, the politics is more conservative. people's mindsets are just becoming more conservative now.
All fandom was like born in Cringe. Like, Cringe being dead is essential to like good, fun art and like just general enjoyment of fandom. Why are you like, do you enjoy things? I deleted this person's comment because I don't know how old they are. It's been so sad existing on this app from 2019 to 2025 consistently. Like, back then, nobody suddenly cosplays like this competition. And also, I'll say it is directly linked to the rise of conservatism. And if you're like, no, it's just Cringe, like I'm just calling it as I see it, you don't realize you are subconsciously absorbing the current state of geopolitical affairs. And that sucks. That fucking sucks. The world is ass right now. It sucks. Everything is bad. And so let's like at least have our little spaces where we can like enjoy things together, you know, like fuck off.
Things happen in cycles. You tend to fall into a more conservative society when the economy isn't doing super well and things are a little rough right now. So the more conservative mindset is just following suit. I guess it's up to us to be more aware of it and to fight against it. But here's the thing, as frustrating as all of this is, I do think it's important not to gatekeep, like I said earlier. We've had this conversation before, and gatekeeping is toxic. Although conservative mindsets and anti-cringe culture can be very toxic too, so can gatekeeping. Just because someone is new to the space doesn't mean they don't deserve to be here. We should be eager to teach, to help them grow, and on the same front, they should be open to learning and to hearing us out and not being defensive or combative. That's honestly just how communities grow and evolve. You know, we just teach each other. We all have to be on the same page with that, which obviously is easier said than done. All I'm saying is just enjoy your life, you know? Stop projecting your insecurities and jealousies onto other people, especially people that are just vibing and living their best life. Let people be weird, let yourself be weird, embrace your inner child, they will thank you, and just be cringe from time to time. It's okay to be cringe. You won't spontaneously combust. And honestly, learn to laugh at yourself. Learning to laugh at yourself is such an important skill to have in life. You're gonna do things that are cringy. You're gonna grow. Years from now, you're gonna look back and make a little face. Wish you never did that, but be glad that you did because you lived. You won't know how incredibly freeing it is until you try it. Thank you everyone for listening. That's all of my thoughts on this topic. If you have any thoughts of your own about fandom culture or cringe culture or anything, let me know in the comments. If you have any experiences you want to share, I'm really interested in hearing them. Like this video if you like it. It really helps me know to make more content like this. This is different than stuff I've posted in the past. Subscribe to my channel if you like my stuff, and if you want to see more, I really appreciate it. And until next time, stay weird, stay different, stay true to you, and stay kind.